Yeah, there's a very interesting Gemara, which I think is pretty worthwhile, Here's what it says. I'll read it in English, the Mart Scroll, because, unless whatever. Okay, it says, Ki b'tachbulos ta'aseh l'chom l'chomo. So this can be interpreted, b'tachbulos ta'aseh l'chom l'chomo, for by wise counsel you shall wage a war. So, tachbulos, they learn, is wise counsel. You will make war. That's how you wage war. Okay. So, Omer Rav Achu bar Chanina, Omer Rav Yasi, Omer Rav Yochanan. Okay? Here's what he says. Yeah. With whom do you find the battle of Torah? Okay? That's his question. Who do you find the battle of Torah means? Who is the Talmid Chacham that engages in the battle of Torah? To understand back and forth until you figure out what's going on. Okay? That's what that pshat means. Rashi brings that out, okay? So he answers, B'mi sheyesh b'yodei chavilos shel Mishnah. Okay? With one who has in his hand bundles of Mishnah. So therefore he learns, that's how he learns it, Ki b'tachbulos. With bundles, that's what he's learning, chavila. With bundles, you shall make war. So who's the one who's able to make war in Machamta Torah, the war of the Torah, which means to really understand, the struggle to understand Torah, with whoever has bundles of Mishnah. So Rabbi Yosef also applied to himself this pasuk, V'rov voice b'koyach shor. Much produce comes by strength of the ox. And Rav Yosef was famous that he was a Sinai, whatever, and so on. So Rashi says on that, which is really very interesting. Milchamta Shetorah. So Rashi says, Hariyoseho, it's instructions, it's the halachas. Hariyoseho, the Hariyoyos, the instructions, the halachas, okay? V'lamed al burya, v'al ikra, and to really understand, burya means clarity, v'al ikra, and it's a fundamental understanding. Loika odom, not like a man, hamafulful, umachudod, a guy who has the ability of tremendous pilpul, and he's really sharp, right? Ubal svara, and he's also Bal svara. Not like this guy who's all these three, right? And he never learned Mishnayos Ubraisos. Why? If he doesn't learn Mishnayos, how's he going to learn the Soid? It means the fundamental principles, right? Elo the Baal Mishnayos Harbe. Only with somebody who's learned an enormous amount of Mishnayos. Well, that's mamish what it says. It's incredible, isn't it?
This was Rashi?
This is Rashi. I'm now reading Rashi on the statement of Rabbi Yochanan. See? If he needs a tam, if he needs a principle, right? He'll learn the principle from another Mishnah. That's ideas. Or if he has a kasha from one thing to another, he will know the answers through the Mishnayos that he has in his hand. Homani Ploini. Who is this person? Right? He shemanu b'mokom ache oimakach. Oh yeah. He'll learn in his hands. Homani. Who is the one who says this, which is different than another Mishnah? Ploini. It's so and so, which we heard in another place that he says this principle. So what Rashi says, interestingly, is I don't care how much pilpul you know, and I don't care how smart you are. If you don't have Mishnayos Harbe, you'll never know. You won't have the ideas. The only one is somebody who has a Baal Mishnayos Harbe. Amazing.
So it's not the depth, it's like...
You need, what Rebbe is simply saying, you need a database. Mishnayos is a database. That's what he says. You know what I'm saying? It's an open Gemara that says without Mishnayos, you're spinning your wheels basically. You see. I thought that was very interesting.
Which Gemara is it?
That's Sanhedrin, Membeis, Omer Aleph. So I'm more or less in the middle. It's astounding Gemara. There's other Gemaras, but this is like it's unbelievable what it says here. The concept of Mishnayos Harbe is really the concept of a database. That's what everybody needs. It's not only the people of Gemara. A person needs to understand what's going on. It's not Yediyas. And the Yediyas from the Mishnah is the way to get it.
There isn't he there talking about...
What's that?
That is, he's taking it before they wrote the Gemara. So in the creation of the...
Who you talking about?
Rebbe, before there was a Gemara.
No, he made the Yerushalmi.
Before there was a Gemara...
Well, Yochanan Rish Lakish made the Yerushalmi in Tveria.
Right, but this is before, so they're talking about before they wrote it down. So before or whilst making the Gemara. But now after the Gemara...
Yeah, but there wasn't... No.
You don't have to recreate the Gemara.
Yeah.
Our job is not to recreate the Gemara.
But there was a Gemara even before Rav Ashi. It just wasn't codified the way he did it.
It was a standardized.
So to
It wasn't
create
standardized into a text.
to do that,
But Gemara, what is Gemara basically? Really, what is not what is Gemara, but where does Gemara come from? Where did Rav Ashi get his stuff from?
Analyzing Mishnayos.
No. First of all,
That was the process over 300 years. From the time of Rebbe until him.
Where did Rav Ashi get this 2,711 pages from? Where? He didn't do
No,
it.
they recorded.
It's not his stuff.
They recorded
These discussions were obviously recorded.
Right.
The entire discussion was recorded.
Prior, they took place.
Sure,
already.
this
Well,
has been going on since Rebbe wrote the Mishnah all the way to Rav Ashi 300 years later.
Right.
So what Rav Ashi simply did, Rav Ashi and Ravina, right? Those are the two. And then Rabbi Yochanan did it in Eretz Israel, in Bavel, he codified it into a text called Gemara.
Right. So what I'm trying to say, though, I think, is that process, that 300-year process,
Yeah.
you couldn't be a part of that process if you didn't know Harbe Mishnayos. Because you can't contribute. If you don't know that, what are you talking about? You just make mafalkalim. But now that process is complete and we have a text of a Gemara, your job is not to recreate the Gemara. Your job is now to learn the Gemara. We're past the stage of creating Gemara, that 300-year process. We're learning Gemara. So for that, you don't have to be a Baal Mishnah Harbe. You just have to learn the Gemara.
My answer to you...
I'm just saying, you could read it that way too.
No, I'll tell you why.
That's a good try.
No, it's a nice try, but I disagree. I'll tell you why. Because it says, "B'mi ato moitzi melchamta shel Torah." Who is a person that is the one who can engage in the melcham of Torah? He's talking about the whole learning process. He's not talking about here and that. He's talking about a guy who wants to sit and learn. So who qualifies? And that's really what it's
So
about.
Rashi says the next word, melchamta shel Torah, huriyosea, to paskin,
Well,
to make a hurrah.
but it
and to
means
ban- and to
it's
know
not
clearly.
just that. Because in the end of Rashi, you see, if there's a contradiction, then you'll know, well, it's really that person. They're talking about limina Torah. They're not talking here about, or at the end of time, when the Gemara is written. No. Who is the person who's qualified to be a Talmid Chacham? What's the way to learn? And that's what it means. B'mi ata moitze melchamta shel Torah. Somebody's a Baal Mishnah's Harbe. That's what he says. You know what I'm saying? Pashtus is dealing with a person who wants to learn. So
Even today, even after the Gemara was created and all that was done. And now the essential analysis of Mishnayos was done and recorded. And our job is now to learn and to analyze the
I would say
analysis
so.
of Mishnayos.
I would say why? Why? Because if you would be right, Rav Ashi never would have put Rabbi Yochanan in because it's not Nugea. Yes? According to you, Rav Ashi clearly put in Rabbi Yochanan. Who put this? Who put this Bible?
Ravina Rav Ashi or the...
Well, okay. So according to you, what is he doing? This is what's called an anachronism. This is old stuff. This is not Nugea.
It's Torah. I mean, he's learning. It's a drush from a pasuk. It doesn't disappear.
But I'm just saying. But it's not Nugea today. The fact that it's a drush from the Torah is even more of a raya against what you're saying. Because it's mamash a drush from the Torah that he's interpreting from that tachblus, that posuk and mishlei. He's interpreting how to learn, with or without Gemara. It has nothing to do with Gemara. You know what I'm saying? It's not mashmad. What I'm just whatever. No, Rabbi Yochanan clearly is referring to the derech halimud. That if you want to qualify as an individual who's waging war, which metaphorically means he's learning Torah the right way, you need to know Mishnah. You don't know Mishnah like Rashi says. Even if he's mechuded and mefulful, he won't know what he's talking about. That's what seems to be saying. You know what I'm saying? Which is an incredible Gemara, startling actually. Because we're talking about Rabbi Yochanan. You know what I'm saying? That's what it seems to be. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, okay. So, where do we leave off? Brachas.
Peg base.
Third
He
base.
started peg base.
You know what would be valuable? Just to go through the CI, what is the central idea of all the Mishnayos that we learned till now? As a sense of continuity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Do you remember? How's it sound?
Sounds good.
Because you need, it's good to have some type of a recall, you know? Yeah, you have it written down there? Sure.
I'm looking at it.
That's all the notes from last time.
No.
Wow.
I'm looking.
Yeah, you have the CIs of every Mishnah.
I'm not sure I have it with me. You just go through it. This little one. Yeah, some of them, yeah, no, some, not all of them.
Yeah?
Yeah, some
Okay.
of them.
Okay, do you remember the first Mishnah? Remember saying Torah Shema B'Aris?
Yeah.
So you remember what the central idea is in that Mishnah? You know what the central idea is of the Mishnah?
This was the time.
Yeah, so we had the central idea, just the idea itself, you know. We had Kriya Shema, right? Evening time period, beginning and end.
Right.
That's it. You see? That itself tells us that the area that we're concerned with is called time period. Therefore, there's a beginning and an end. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, what you're going to do is when you finish, each Mishnah, and you write down the central idea, and maybe its area, and then you look at all of it in front of you, then you can then you can begin to arrange, okay. So that's how you arrange it, you know?
Builder.
Exactly. Once you have, it's like a build a building. Once you have the material, you build a building, you know? So same thing, if you have it in front of you, this big sheet of paper, every central idea of all the Mishnayos, then all of a sudden you say, okay, how do I arrange this into a structure?
It's interesting. It's interesting to realize the difference. Like one thing is to say whatever Mishnah is saying, you read Shema from here to here. We just we seem to be saying the same, just a little up.
The what?
We're just saying one level up. We're saying it's time period for evening Kriya Shema.
It's an evening time period.
Basically the same thing, but we generalize a little bit. But that allows
I'm getting the same time period.
In other words, we are saying the same thing as Mishnah is saying. Just we are saying it in a more generic way. It allows us to put it in a structure. Because the way how Mishnah says it, it's like it's just a detail. It cannot be plugged in structure, but it sounds the same thing. Really, it's a little subtle.
Yeah, because what is the central idea? What a central idea really does is it generalizes basically what's going on in the Mishnah in a very general way. We're not into the specifics, because if you're into the specifics, you don't see what's going on. So, listen, the essence of method contains 3 different operations. You know what they are? The essence of a whole learning process has 3 different operations. The first is analyze what is being said. The second thing is you need to generalize that which is being said into a general statement. Why? Because the general statement allows you to connect this to many other things.
Right.
You see? And then after you generalize, then you synthesize. You put it all together. That's really the method. That's really all it is. It's simple. It's contained just 3 different words. You analyze. And what is analysis? Analysis is what? Is definition, parts, havchonos. You know what I'm saying? And once you have that, then you can generalize and you can begin to structure. That's really what the Ramchal really. That's really his method in terms of the Hakdama to Derech Hashem. You know, that's why and most people don't realize that. You know, so on. So first Mishnah, brachas, Kriya Shema is obviously the topic, right? But it's about the evening time period because we know that there's a morning and an evening. It's about the evening time period of Shema, beginning and end of that time period. Okay, great. And we have then you go to then you go into the specifics. Okay, what is the beginning and what is the end? You know what I'm saying? We have different shittas. You know what the end of the time period is, and then we need to clarify. The Chachamim would have a view about what the end is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Mishnah Beis. Anyway, that was a abbreviation.
Morning, right? Time period. Morning time period, beginning and end.
Yeah, Kriya Shema, morning time period, beginning end. So clearly, these two Mishnahs deal with time, and the beginning and end of these two time periods, I should say. Right? Great. Now we have Mishnah Gimel, right? And Mishnah Gimel. Oh, actually, there is one thing at the end of Mishnah Beis, and that is Akur Mikan V'ilach, and that is what? That's time period, end of the accompanying brachas. And what this tells us is that the end time period of the brachas is not the same as Shema. That Shema ends earlier, but the brachas go on after. So it's no longer referring to Shema. It is referring to the brachas itself, the accompanying brachas. So that is really part of the Mishnah. You know, even though where we get brachas, it has never been mentioned before. You know, but that's But since the Mishnah is dealing with time period, the end of Kriya Shema, morning, so it now wants to deal with the end of its accompanying brachas also. Even though it never even told me that there is a chiyuv brachas. How do we know? You know, and so on.
It's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah. But anyway, so that's two. Okay, third Mishnah. You see, based just on this, you can begin to, put it into a it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You know. Then we have the third Mishnah that tells us what?
Called the bodily position requirement.
Yeah, positional requirements. In Kriya Shema, is there a positional requirement or not? And that's a machlokes by Shammai and Beis Hillel. You see. So therefore, we're no longer talking about time period or beginning and end. You know what I'm saying? We're now talking about, is there a requirement for a specific position that you need to assume reading it? Okay? And then, of course, you have the story of Taf, and he almost got himself killed, or robbed, or whatever, right? Because he violated the words of Beis Hillel. Okay, that just shows you the severity of the psak. Be careful, Okay, great. So that's number 3. Then number 4, we have what? B'shachar. We now have b'shachar. The what? We're now talking about the chidush of the accompanying brachas. And we know there are 7 of them. We know there are 7 accompanying brachas. You know what I'm saying? Based on a specific pasuk. So the Mishnah deals with what? It deals with 3 aspects of those brachas. The first thing, you know what I'm saying? 3 aspects of those brachas. 3 areas, so to speak. The first area is the distribution. We know there are 7 brachas because that was the preliminary information. So the question is, the distribution. Well, how are these 7 brachas distributed? So we have here, there's 2 and 1, 2 and 2. So that's the concept of distribution. Right? It's all about the accompanying brachas. But the first part is all about its distribution. The second part, Achas Arucha, Achas Kesora, is about
structure.
Is a
Structure of the brachas.
Is a description. It's a description. It's a description of what type of bracha is it. So we answer it's Arucha, which means it starts with a baruch, ends with a baruch, and so on and so forth. So that's a description of these accompanying brachas. So that's the second part. And the third part, I want to stick with the D's. Distribution. Always try to do things which will help your memory out. We have distribution, we have description, and the fourth part is deviation. You can't deviate. If the Chazal said, open with a baruch, you know what I'm saying? Don't skip it. And if they said, it doesn't close, then don't add, and so on and so forth. So there, to what extent can you deviate? It's all about deviation. From the formula that Chazal said. You see? So that's the fourth Mishnah. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Fifth Mishnah. Fifth Mishnah is Maskirin, is what? We don't deal with Shema. We're dealing with a new mitzvah called Maskir Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's a new mitzvah. Why are we dealing with it here? Because the place of this mitzvah is by Kriya Shema in Parsha Tzitzis. You know what I'm saying? So the question, the central question that this Mishnah deals with, you know what I'm saying? How many times is this mitzvah? Everybody admits it's a day mitzvah, but is it also a night mitzvah? And that's what this Mishnah is all about. Is the mitzvah of Haskor Kriya Shema, which is really part of the Shema text, it's called the Shema extension, whereas the brachos are Shema expansions, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. Is this extension, which is the Yitzias Mitzrayim, is this also a chiyuv at night? And then you have, of course, Rabbi Lozman says yes, and they say no, and then you find the drasha, and so on and so forth, But ultimately, it's to answer one question. Is there, pashtas, is there a chiyuv minat Torah to read it at night? You know what I'm saying? That's the essence of this Mishnah, the central idea. Wow, we just finished the first paragraph. You see, So if you do this all shot, imagine seeing this central idea, but look how much a central idea reveals about a Mishnah without getting into the nitty-gritty, without getting into the real details, You see what I'm saying?
It's basically the Shema, expansion, extension, time periods, the frequency or whatever. And,
exactly.
Position, whatever.
Yeah, so what you do is, as you learn the Mishnah, you write out the central ideas, and then when you finish, let's say, 3 parts of Shema, you look at them, it's okay. I have now the pieces.
It feels like one thing, really. Already.
So because like this, what we've done is connected. We connected all the dots. See, when I realized, from this parak alone, we realize what? That there are 3 things going on. Really.
Shema.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. 1 is the Shema itself. 2 is the extension. The extension, which is what? It's Mitzrayim. And the third thing is the expansion, which is the brachos. Wow. Each one is a separate mitzvah. Shema, right? It's Yitzias Mitzrayim because there's the man Tizkor, So there the issue was, does that extend to the night? Well, fine. And then there's what accompanies the Shema. So you have 3 different mitzvahs, all called Shema. You see. And therefore, if that's the case, then that's how you'd organize it. You have mitzvah 1, mitzvah 2, and mitzvah 3, and then that would be the vertical column, and then the horizontal column would be the attributes, the qualities of this. What are they? Well, time periods, beginning and end for each of these 3 mitzvahs. Mm-hmm. Position requirements for each of these 3. You know what I'm saying? As we'll see, further and so on. You have position requirements, beginning, end, time period.
Frequency maybe.
Yeah. So you'll have common attributes for all 3 mitzvahs.
Yeah.
So when you finish Shema, there's your table.
And we come up with questions we wouldn't think otherwise. Like, for example, for Yitzias Mitzrayim, either position requirement, either
exactly.
Is the time period the same? Because it doesn't say really.
Yeah.
So
and that's only because you see them all in contrast with each other. Yeah. That's the beauty of a structure, So the first parak gives a certain amount of ideas, Then we have the second parak. Okay, so we have the first Mishnah, which was what?
States of mind.
Who?
We talk about
The first Mishnah? Torah. Im kiven liboy.
states
That's
of mind. State of mind.
yeah, state of mind, namely
In this case,
kavanah.
Yeah, come on, all right.
Okay. We need it. Well, kavanah. What is that? Kavanah simply means intent. What intent? So there are different kinds of intent. Than that we have,
Maybe
intent to be yoitz the mitzvah with this kriya.
Intent requirement probably should.
Yes, there's a kavanah requirement clearly, and that's what it says. If you have the intent, then you're yoitze because you came across. You're reading the Torah, and all of a sudden this man arrived, so you want to be yoitze. So you need to intend. So it says, if you intend, fine. If not, not. So the question is, okay, what's intent? Fine, okay. But the first part of this Mishnah, or the Resha, is all about, is that kavanah is required by Kriya Shema. And the question is, what is kavanah? But new requirement, you see?
Okay. We hadn't started. We did not start sponsoring now.
You didn't say what?
We didn't go into the details of the mission in terms of the preliminary ideas and the central idea. We're going to breaking it by statements.
Where are we up to really?
This first mission. We started to talk about states of mind, but we hadn't actually gone into.
Oh, really?
We hadn't broken it down to preliminary ideas, central idea, then we've broken down the statements one by one.
We came up with a bunch of different states of mind.
We came up with 4 states of mind: Misasik, and Yudea. And
Oh, so is this where we ended?
Yeah.
Wow. We didn't cover that much. Okay. So, okay. So, do we want to say the Mishnah first? How want to do it? Eliezer? Are you
We
game?
didn't even have a mission.
Yeah, okay.
So next time So he is reading the Torah, obviously next to Shema, next to the Parshas of Shema, and it happens to be that the Zman of the mitzvah comes up. So if he had an intent, he's Yoitzer. If he didn't have an intent to be Yoitzer the mitzvah, obviously, then he's not Yoitzer.
Okay.
That's the first statement.
Yes.
So that's the intent requirement.
Yes.
That's how we call it.
That's what it says. Clearly, the Mishnah says that there's a kavanah, there's an intent requirement that's necessary. Yeah. Okay, then the question, of course, is what is the intent? So that's an argument.
What about preliminary ideas? Oh, was it first mission or not?
No, it's just the first statement.
Yes. So preliminary ideas. Preliminary ideas would be.
Text of Shema.
Oh yeah, because we're into the Shema text. Yeah.
There's a requirement.
I mean, the same
Intent.
preliminary idea is the same as for Shema. I mean, it's,
The what?
preliminary idea is the same as for previous.
Yeah, basically, because
There's
we're in Shema.
nothing new here.
It's Kriya. It's not about the text.
Just one more attribute.
It's about the
one-
recitation, right?
Yeah.
Well, obviously recitation of the text, but it's fundamentally about the Kriya of Shema, right? Right? And then the concept of course, state of mind. Is there a required state of mind when you're reading Shema? Yeah.
You go further?
Yeah, so the Mishnah says there is. And then we, if you look at some enforcement, whatever, it's one of two things. Either state of mind means what? In general, there's a machlokas. Do mitzvahs need kavanah or not? Tzrichas kavanah or not? It's a general machlokas in Shas. That's really what's called a universal. It's not really Shema, it's all over Shas. Or every
So
mitzvah.
obviously Shema is different because in Shema we have a separate machloikus. I mean, not machloikus. We have a different psak than.
No, I don't. No. The Mishnah
I mean,
would say.
we pass on mitzvahs and tzricha kavanah. So why do we have kavanah here? So obviously Shema is different somehow.
Well, that's the psak, but we're not into psak a lot.
Yeah.
I think we pass.
Mitzvahs with the Raisa, they do need kavanah. The Rabbanon.
Yeah,
Among the Rabbanon is right.
that we do need kavanah.
The Raisa.
Do people chaven when they say Shema?
I know what people do.
Did you ever see people say to themselves, "I'm a chaven that I want to be yoisei yidei chavasi with this kriya"?
In some of the Siddurim it says it.
I never see people do that.
And you can't say it.
I don't see them think. I just
How
right
can you
into
see
it.
somebody thinking?
Because the thought does require 30 seconds. Right?
Even 5 seconds. I mean, no, I mean, it implies, but implicit. I mean,
Will you
that's
spend
the
30
question.
seconds before you do any mitzvah thinking about it? Before you get to dock, you spend 30 seconds thinking about it?
No.
And the guy standing there with his hand out.
No.
30,
He certainly doesn't want you to take the time. He needs the money right now.
right. 1 second, I'm not finished with my name. 1 second.
Who was the one? I forgot who. Where there was an oni and he was taking out something and the oni died while he was taking it out. I forgot who, because Nebuch, the guy was so, and he had terrible chalot and was like, I forgot who it was, but anyway.
Come on.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It was Nachum Shkamsu, I think.
No. It's the end of Sukkah, no?
I'm talking about, it's like one of these memory blocks. Yeah. But I remember there was such a Maisa. Anyway. So the idea, of course, well, the preliminary idea would be, actually, besides Shema, is the machlokes in general. Does the Kiyum HaMitzvah need Kavanah? You know what I'm saying? Because, and then we apply it to Shema. That's really what it is, the Kriya Shema. So that would be, you have Shema, Kriya Shema, and one of the requirements of Kriya Shema, right, is Kavanah. But you'd have to add as a preliminary that there is a machlokes that exists.
right.
Does a mitzvah in general need kavanah or not? You see. And then this Mishnah clearly says it does. But then, you have to apply it. Those people who say it needs kavanah, it's obvious what it says. Those people who hold it does need kavanah, they will have to answer what does kiven liboy mean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they'll say it means you have to be careful about the enunciation of the words or the letters.
Right, to understand the meaning.
Yeah, I don't do it
to say them
kavanah.
correctly.
You say to articulate or to enunciate the words correct, the letters correctly.
Right.
I think it gives an example here. Yishinantam or whatever. No.
Tosfos gives an example.
Yeah, to give examples. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we have the preliminary ideas, the concept of Kriya Shema, the concept that is in general a machlokes through Kol HaTorah Kula, if mitzvahs need kavanah or not. Yeah, and then we get into the Mishnah. Right? What is the Mishnah? How do you break it down? How many cases are there in the Mishnah?
I mean, really two. We are talking. There are two. I mean, one which
Tosi says the Tota voice and Mezuzos.
Oh,
If you read them like they're written,
it's yeah. If you're a sofer, you would say the tatfas,
Right.
because you want to just know if the letters are there.
Yeah.
You don't care if you read them right.
Yeah.
Whereas letoitofos, yeah, that's right.
So Mishnah has two parts really. One part we just said is intent.
Part,
The two parts.
two cases.
Two cases, right?
They're not parts. They're
Yeah,
cases.
two cases.
What's the first case?
First case is the intent. I mean,
Was reading. Are you correct?
huh?
What's the case?
The case is reading Torah,
He's reading Torah.
He's
Kohen
reading Torah, right.
And
and the time has come,
time has come. Go
and
ahead.
he keeps reading whether he's doing it or not. If he didn't mechavan,
No, so case one is what? He's machavan. So
Right.
the question is he yotze or not? The answer is. Case two is where he's not machavan,
right?
and therefore the din is
That's
he's
very
not
important.
yotze.
Yeah.
See, it's two cases, really,
Yeah.
because one case he is machavan, the other case is not machavan. So what's
Right.
the din? So really, this first part has two cases.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And therefore, it's really, it's a case where you have one and it's opposite. So
Yeah.
and so on, But there's two statements here. Im kiven nibo yotza, im lav lo yotza. Okay? So that's an important part.
I think that's the first statement in the Mishnah.
That is the first section, so to speak, of the Mishnah. Because there is a second section.
We keep.
what I'm
Keep
saying?
reading.
Who?
We should keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah, because that's the first section.
בפרקים שואל מפני יעקב את מיישב, ובאמצע שואל מפני העיר ומיישב. דברי רבי מאיר. So later, next Mishnah is going to define what Bapraki means, but
Yeah.
the Torah, the Shema, there are different paragraphs, let's say.
Well, yeah,
Over
they're
different
trying to junctures.
Right.
A juncture.
Oh,
So,
juncture,
you
yeah.
know, there's a juncture where one will meet the other. You know, juncture, intersection.
Right, so there is such thing as Shoel Meishev, Mipnei Kovet, Mipnei Ira. There are two things. In other words, he's greeting somebody because he's afraid of that person, or he's greeting somebody because just show him whatever. Just because he wants to be
Shoel
nice.
means to
He wants to be
inquire
nice.
or to greet.
Right.
And Meshav is to respond to a greeting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Shoel, you're allowed to greet somebody mipnei covered if he's a person that you should honor. Meshav, and you're certainly allowed to respond to him. You know what I'm saying?
So Mipnei Kovet means he's just respect, how to respect. Mipnei
Yeah, a
Ira
person
because
that
he's afraid.
demands covered.
Right.
You know, certain people demand covered. Parents, a Rebbe,
Yeah.
they would demand covered. There are examples of who demands covered. You know what I'm saying?
So in between,
In between the prokem, that's, yeah,
it's Mipnei Kovet,
and Meshav, or Mibnei Kovedt,
right?
yes.
Both the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
Shoel
can-
Meishev the same. We don't distinguish according to Rabbi Meir.
Yes, that's right.
So in between, then it's Mipnei Kovet. But if we are
In the middle.
in the middle, then only Mipnei Ira, not Mipnei Kovet. Mipnei Kovet is not enough. We shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's what Rabbi Meir is saying.
Stop. What is this about?
It's about respect. I don't know. No, what this Shoel? To greet. What's the big deal to greet? I mean,
An outside obligation that can interrupt the performance of the mitzvah.
So,
we don't know priorities maybe. Two obligations. What has more weight? Is that what's
no.
happening?
You're just, what's the word you use that's really the whole concept, the whole word?
To say it again.
I said an outside obligation which can interrupt performance of this mitzvah.
So therefore, what's the key word?
Interruption. Interruption maybe.
I mean, outside.
No, interruption.
Yeah, I would say it's interruptions. Can there be an interruption in Bein HaProkim or Be'emtza?
I mean, can or can't means if he still you to the mitzvah, in spite of the interruption. That's the point. That's the main point.
Interrupt, not Yitzhak, yeah. Well,
Right.
that the question is exact. The concept of interruptions, that is the concept of this Mishnah, Rameya.
Does recitation allow interruptions? And if yes, what are the cases? What are the cases? What are the parameters?
Well, then we have to look. We understand that the central idea really is interruptions. Interruptions in Shema.
Right.
That's the central idea of the second section. First section is kavanah requirement. Second section is interruption possibilities in recitation. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but there seems to be a whole bunch of things going on. There's shoel, there's covered, there's meshav, Bein HaProkim, Ira. Like there's a whole bunch of variables.
There are four things: Shoel Meishev and Ira Kovet. The four things basically.
What are they?
4 points. Shoel Meishev, there is 2 points. Shoel and Meishev, there is
Shoel
2
means
points.
to greet and to respond.
Right.
That's what is that?
It's
called?
one dimension. There are two.
No. Yeah, but what is that? You need to identify that.
These are situations now.
No.
These are possibilities
Of what?
of interruption.
No. Generalize. It's one of the greatest skills you can acquire because it is generalization that begins to link other things together and it gives you much greater clarity. You know what I'm saying? very important to learn how to generalize, so you don't get lost in the fragments. So Shoel Meshiv.
Interruption
what is it?
application.
Who?
Interruption.
One's initiating interruption.
No. We know what the central idea is, which is interruption. No, but there's a whole bunch of variables here. We got to organize this, or else it's like, you're lost in the variables. You know what a variable is? Possibilities, right? Or issues, or categories.
I mean,
So the first category is what?
The interrupting obligation itself, that's the greeting.
No, let's take each one. The Shoel Meshiv, 1. It's
Yeah.
covered Nira, 2.
Right.
Anything else?
In Rabbi Meir, no. Or when where?
Who?
Where?
Yeah, Ben Aprakim or Bemsa.
Oh,
3.
yeah,
It's a 3 variable problem.
There are 3 variables or 3 categories. You see?
Yeah.
So that we won't get lost in this. So there's where, right? Where is Ben Aprakim? And what's Shoel Meshiv?
External obligation or interrupting obligation.
No. What? Give me the general category. Shoel Meshiv fit under what category?
Greeting, I mean.
No, you're translating. Shimon. No.
I mean, it's act. It's action.
Who?
It's an act. It's an action. It's the nature of the interruption, like
Oh,
the type
What?
of interruption.
what is the interruption? What is it?
What means what kind of event?
Yeah, what is it? Shoel is a certain type of interruption. Meshiv is a certain type of interruption. What is the interruption? Greeting or responding. That's the interruption. That's what. It's called the content or the actual interruption itself. What is it? What is it? So Ben HaProkim is, where is it?
Yeah.
Shoel Meshiv is, what is it? And you're in covered?
Consequences.
Who?
Why?
Maybe
You're in covered?
I would say
Why is it?
I would
Why
say-
is it not? Why is it allowing? What's the cause?
I would say it's consequences probably.
Consequences.
If you, if you don't interrupt, that's what's going to happen.
So what generates interruption? The seed of the interruption.
Yeah, okay.
So the shalom will come.
Yeah.
Somebody asks you why you're interrupting, you'll say either because of shalom, either because of kavod, or because of yira.
Well, it certainly is to whom? To whom can I interrupt? And the answer is somebody who demands covet or yira. So that would mean to whom can I interrupt? You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, what you're saying is a little... But is that a why also, or is that just a to whom?
To whom?
Better to whom, I think.
Yeah.
I get a better feel with to whom. To whom can I interrupt? And the answer is somebody who demands or requires covet or yira. Not requires, somebody who, when covet is who
So
requires.
yira doesn't.
Yira is-
Yira is like.
yeah, but also to whom. They're both to whom. You know what I'm saying? So we have 3 categories. Where can I interrupt? What can I interrupt? And to whom can I interrupt? You know what I'm saying? So there you are. So Rav Meir has his shita. Rav Meir says, but prokem, that's where, right? What can I interrupt? Shoel Meshiv. But to whom is the Shoel Meshiv? And that's the answer in covered and yira. So if it's covered, that person, ben aprokem, I can be Shoel Meshiv, right? And if it's yira, I can even do it in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Kol shkein, yira can be ben aprokem. You know what I'm saying? Kol shkein. It's a kal v'chomer. Ma, the covered I can interrupt, ben aprokem, alachas kama yira. But in the middle, it can only be yira.
Here is more Michael.
Yeah. Yira is much more sure. So from this, even though the Mishnah doesn't say it, we learn, you know what I'm saying? All the halachas of interruption, ben aprokem. You know what I'm saying? So ben aprokem is shoil or meshav, whether kovid or yira. Be'emsa is shoil and meshav, only yira. That's from Meir.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then there's a larger picture.
Shalom never.
Never shalom, yeah. But then there's a larger picture. You see, I mean, we generalize variables and so on. The truth is, there's a larger picture here, which you're not really addressing. You know what I'm saying? You're not really addressing. And what that is. There's really 4 categories here. There's what I can interrupt with, which is Sholem Eshev. To whom, where. I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what action am I taking? The answer is interruptions.
That's not a variable, isn't it?
Well, in this Mishnah it's not, but what about other things that you do in Kriya Shema? You know?
I don't get it. What's
There's
the
an
number
action.
14?
The action is called interruption. What is the action? Sholem Eshev. To whom is the action? Year and covered. You know what I'm saying? And where is the action? Either Ben Prokim or Bemsa. It's really 4 things going
I
on.
don't know the fourth one.
Well, the action itself is
How's it a variable? That's what we're discussing, the
So,
action.
yeah, it
In
was-
the action, there's 3 variables.
Yes, yeah.
So how is the action itself a full variable?
Well, you know, that's a good question.
No,
What about another action?
if
What
individuals.
is this a variable of?
Interruptions. In the general sense of interruptions.
How many ways can you interrupt?
I mean,
No,
there's sort of an infinite number of ways you can interrupt.
No. And that's what we have to recognize. What type of interruption is this?
A permitted interruption.
Who?
A permitted interruption.
No, I didn't ask you the halachic consequence. What type of interruption are we talking about?
This is greeting interruption. I mean,
Interruption.
Generalize. What type of interruption is it?
conversational. You
Oh,
have to
verbal.
Oh,
Is that the only type of interruption?
not at all. Maybe you wait for a few seconds
Exactly.
or for a few minutes.
Exactly. Hefsik.
Yeah.
I just wait.
Or you listen to music. You listen to something.
Or
Oh, yeah,
I went to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there are ways of interrupting Shema. You see, so that broadens.
Or my wife wants to tell me some story, whatever. But I'm.
Yeah.
whatever
Can I? Yeah. No. That still could be. Well, okay. Yeah. So there could be an interruption.
No,
in
I'm just
terms of-
Messiah does. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So I'm just showing something. It's much larger than that.
Right.
You see? Because what about? Okay. So this is a verbal interruption.
You know, there's
And we have-
Where I interrupt verbally. Either
Right.
I respond or I greet or I respond. That's verbal. But there are other types of interruptions. Where I'm mafsik, I stop. I stop for a minute and I gotta stop for a minute. I need to stop for 5 minutes. In other words, is time in the interruption? Is what's called is inactivity? Is the cessation of kriya an interruption? So that's 2. So one is a verbal activity, interruption. Another is the cessation of kriya as an interruption. You see?
Hesed does.
Well, a third thing is to engage in another activity.
Right,
Not
right.
verbal,
Right.
but another activity. Whatever, exactly. You see?
Yeah.
It's very important because that's the contrast. See, all this Mishnah tells us is about this is talking about a verbal interruption. But the real question is interruptions in general. That's why we generalize. You see. And then the last thing we have to consider, what's wrong with interruptions?
What happens in it?
What's wrong with it? I mean, clearly there's clearly a halachic bias against interruptions. Why? I mean, I want to tell you something. What all this guy did was let's assume he was either verbal interruption. So now we see that parameter. You know what I'm saying? What type of interruptions are we talking about? You see? So he interrupts, but he didn't skip anything. He just stopped. An interruption is he stopped. The question is what happened in that pause? Verbal, inactivity, some other activity, cessation. That's what happened. So really interruptions here is what? What's the Torah's interruption? What's the problem here? Is it the verbal? Is it the time? Is it another activity? Or is it none of these things? It's the pause.
Right.
Which is it? There has to be a continuity. And there cannot be a pause in that continuity.
What makes it two?
I don't care how you paused.
Right.
I don't care how you paused. You pause a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying?
What exactly makes two out of one?
What?
What splits it up? What exactly makes it two?
Yeah, what's the problem? You see, that's the major issue here. Halachically, anyway. You know?
Yeah.
You see what I'm doing? What am I doing? I'm going beyond the Mishnah. You see?
Anticipating quite a few other Mishnayos.
Of course. But it's all part of the concept called interruptions.
Right.
Because this is only one type of interruption. But there are other types of interruption. So that's the question. What's the problem with interruption? Is it the interruption itself, or is it the lack of connectivity of the parshas in time?
Oh, obviously it's like connectivity.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the lack of continuity.
Which is it? Is it the interruption that's no good? And you have to know why. Or is it the lack of the continuity in time of the parshas?
I mean, obviously it's lack of continuity.
Who?
It's obviously lack of continuity.
Why do you say that?
It's not. I mean, it's not one. I mean, it has to be
So
one.
if you read one parsha in the morning, when you woke up, and the second parsha an hour later, and the third parsha an hour later, you wouldn't have been Yosef?
Is that called an interruption?
Ah. Yeah.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Because
simple.
you would be.
Yeah. See, it's that simple. That's all.
No, I'm curious now. Would it be Yosef?
Yeah, well, you got to grab a Shulchan Aruch to find out what you know. But you see, you can glean a tremendous amount from a Mishnah by going up and generalizing.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're gonna have the answers, but at least you see the big picture, the whole Torah's interruptions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what you do is you note it in a notebook, whatever you got, and say, hey,
Till the time comes.
until the time comes that you'll be, or else you can do the research right then and there.
Yeah.
And look up the parsha called Hefsek, because that's really what it's called. Hefsekos,
Yeah.
interruptions. And then you have to look, okay, which ones, and so on, I once read that if you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei, and this is not only here, it's any kind of tefillah, in the middle of Shemona Esrei, Oh, you guys, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom, excuse me. And he says Ashiyotza, and then he gets back to Daven Shemona Esrei. Or I once saw there's a halach which is interesting, that what happens if you forgot Yalav Yovo, so you don't know what to do.
Consider.
So you go, in the middle of Shemona Esrei, you go and look it up, and then you continue. That's not a hefsek. Interesting. Excuse me, it's a... Not only did you stop...
Years ago.
What?
I did that once years ago.
You did that
People
once.
shoot me like I was
But you can't talk.
No.
But you can walk over, but
Usually you can go back to where you were standing before.
yeah.
And you just go to the sit and down there.
Yeah, so therefore, what this Mishnah is really about what? Hefsek.
Torah's interruptions.
Torah's
Sounds good. It sounds good.
See?
It's the new area.
Yeah. But not only that, what the area is now, it's a totality, you see.
Right.
And this Mishnah is part of that totality, you see. Because the concept of Hefsek is true in any tefillah. It will be true in, let's say, any in Shema, in Tefillah, Shemona Esrei. You know what I'm saying? But we don't know why. Oh, wow.